us. So, speaking about land free of improvements is a topic that has been dealt by economists for more than 200 years. You are all familiar with land value capture. How can we implement this notion politically, especially in our country, Argentina, where our natural resources are really extraordinary? Juan Bautista Alberdi, the great constitutionalist and political organizer in the 1900s, when he spoke about the rent-based system of the Confederation, he said that the agents and natural forces of production that economists call land are climate, weather, latitude, rivers, lagoons, forests, minerals, and mountains. Argentina has a wonderful wealth of natural resources available, parcels and fertile land, profuse rainfall, and good workers. Felix de Azara, a Spanish writer of the 1800s, stated that he had never seen better weather than the Argentinian one. Buenos Aires, good airs, define the Argentinian climate and weather. And according to the Department of Agriculture of the United States, the Argentine Pampas, together with the Midwest of the USA and the Ukrainian plains, are the three more fertile lands for agriculture. And in turn, our land has been blessed by oil and non-conventional gas. President Obama, U.S. President, has told the Argentinian president in Cartagena de Indias that our country is really lying on a sea of oil and gas. Paul Samuelson, Nobel Prize winner and economist, stated in 1980 at a world conference that countries should be classified in four groups: developed countries, developing countries, Japan, and Argentina. The two last ones are special cases. Japan, because they don't have, virtually speaking, natural resources, and they miraculously grew after the Second World War up until their GDP was equal to the United States GDP. Argentina, on the other hand, is very rich in natural resources, but even though it had developed a lot ever since the 1900s up until 1945, then became a developing country, and nobody knows why. Available figures on GDP per capita worldwide, we used to be ranked 5th in 1945 on a worldwide basis, and we have declined to number 57 according to the World Bank. By way of example, in 1950, per capita GDP exceeded in Germany, France, 1960 Italy, 1970 Spain, 1980 Japan, 1990 South Korea, and in the year 2000 Chile. All these countries superseded our own GDP. What can we do to regain terrain and become rich once again? My paper, I try to share some partial views and criteria with you, emphasizing more efficient use of natural resources without undermining, and this is a difference of mine with Dr. Sandler, prioritizing the mismanagement of relative prices, real exchange rate, and poor capital formation. This short means are based on the spoil system based on clientelism, which is a major stumbling block to promotion in the civil service, is that the feudal system was to be blamed for Japan being backwards. And he thought that Japan was going to be conquered by the Englishmen or the Americans, because they had boats near the Japanese coasts. And, of course, they had to develop their own country. So after taking power in 1869, Emperor Meiji established absolute freedom to purchase and sell land, abolishing the tax system, because the land had been owned by the same families for many centuries. Finally, the feudal system was abolished and repealed. They were favoring free trade of land, and he levied a strong tax on land free of improvements in order to force warrior families and landowners to sell those pieces of land to those who could pay such taxes. These were farmers who were familiar with agricultural techniques, make land productive, and pay more taxes. Rice production tripled in after 1945, and Japan started the wonderful success, economic success in their own country, thanks to free trade concerning this tax on land free of improvement. This way of taxation was favored by the foreign policy of the United States after the end of the Second World War in 1945, and in order to spread agrarian land ownership, small plots of land acting against large landowners, and struggle efficiently against communism in the USA. Communism, as you know, favors collective ownership of property, a system which has proved to be inefficient. So agrarian reforms in countries deeply influenced by the USA's Korea, Japan, Taiwan, in the early post-war period. There was a pressure exerted by the Alliance for Progress, a program launched by President Kennedy for Latin America after taking office in 1960, with the purpose of preventing regional spread of Soviet communism in the Cuban style across Latin America. This kind of taxation has always been the one preferred by economists because it doesn't distort resource allocation. Therefore, the great master and teacher of fiscal economy, Richard Musgrave, stated, the tax on land is particularly interesting because land is a factor of production, being inelastic in its supply. So if you levy a tax on land, this does not imply that there will be a tax burden. For such reasons, economists have deemed land rent as one of its favorite tax bases. Countries which are now characterized by promoting this type of tax are Australia, New Zealand, some states and municipalities of the USA, England, Japan, Singapore, Canada, and Japan. This is a tax that helps municipalities pay their spending, or states pay their own expenditures. We call them provinces in Argentina. In the USA, according to Musgrave, the real estate tax accounts for 70 or 80% of municipal tax collection and 10% of total tax collection in the country. On the other hand, the real tax rate exceeds on average 1% of the real estate value, and it is deductible from income tax. In Australia and Japan, it represents 8%, Canada accounts for 9%, and England, where taxes are collected by the central government, according to this author, his book written in 1980, it represents 12%. In Argentina, real estate tax collection accounts for 3.6% of total tax collection, 3 times less than in the countries referred to above, and proportionally to the GDP, it is only 1.1%, taking into account latest figures. In my case, latest figures are 2007 figures corresponding to that year. And of course, it's 1/3 of the one corresponding to the above-mentioned countries. In Argentina, this tax would have expansionary effects on agriculture, construction, as it happened in all the countries where the tax was levied. Land would no longer be a speculative good, and it would become a productive good exclusively, because it would be imperative to create the surplus or excess values with which to pay the tax. So rent beneficiaries would have to hire specialists such as agronomists to make the land more productive, and if they are not capable to do so, they should sell their land. Vast extensions of land in the province of Chaco, Formosa, Salta, Santiago del Estero, Patagonia, in Argentina, have a very low tax collection, land tax collection, and of course their land should become much more profitable. Mere land ownership with extensive agriculture to speculate on the land value increase in the long term won't be appropriate. If the tax would be levied, there would be a very beneficial transfer of land to those who know how to work the land, as it happened in Japan in 1868. Of course, it is clear that most of the additional production should be exported, which will enhance the development of our country. We would repeat the exporting boom 1816-1914, an era in which the real estate tax, called direct territorial or land contribution or rate, accounted for 60% of provincial finance. Not only provincial finance would benefit, but also national finance, because there would be enhanced collection of export duties generated by enhanced production and export. These duties, taxes, and rights are not disruptive. If the world demand curve faced by our country has an elasticity that is smaller than infinite. According to the economic theory, export duties should not be greater than the reverse of the elasticity of world demand of Argentine exports in the long term, which on average would be -5 or even more, which would recommend the application of a maximum of export duties in the order of 20%. This creates tax surplus, allowing to buy with genuine resources, excess foreign currency, exports over exports, determining a more competitive foreign exchange rate, and would not be detrimental detrimental to the agriculture sector.